What's good? What's good? I recently made a video letter to LeBron James extending an olive branch for a discussion around how we can find some unity amidst all the chaos. He's way too fucking busy, and I'm no one. So I figured I would engage you in this conversation that I think about. I recently had a friend tell me they witnessed an assault. Two men beating up a single guy. Punches and kicks, and he went to the ground, and they did not relent. And she told me that she did not want to call the police because she was afraid they would make the situation worse. And so I told her she probably should have called the police, and that maybe she should seek some professional help in processing the event because that could be traumatic. She had admitted that she kind of just felt helpless in this very scary scenario. And this story kind of just, it highlights a lot of the issues around institutional violence, defunding the police, police reform, and even gun control. Because I think to myself, if you're so afraid of our police that you won't call them when you're witnessing a violent crime because you're afraid they'll make it more violent, wouldn't you want to have protection from both aggressors? Like, this is a very veiled Second Amendment point, but that's, and I told her that's why some people like to carry guns, because they want to be able to protect themselves and their community from aggressors of civilian and government origin. And so, if you're afraid of our government to the point where you won't call the police, why would you trust them to take all of our guns away? And so this video wasn't meant to be a Second Amendment video, because I don't love the Constitution like everybody fucking on the right does. Man, they get so hard over it. And it's like, you guys, it's a piece of paper written by a bunch of old white dudes. Like, we technologically advanced 25 years after the writing of that document to the point where things have changed so much. It should very much be a living document, or we should just rewrite it. But that's a whole different thing. Who will protect our communities? I believe that the first layer of that protection resides within yourself. I think a lot of people who want the government to do everything for them and for everyone else just want to absolve the personal responsibility element that comes with existing and participating within a society. And that's wrong. That is wrong. Everything starts with the self-responsibility. You even get to choose within some, like, you can't just move across the world if you don't have the resources. But in America, there's more mobility than in other countries. So if you don't like the state that you live in, you can move to another state. If you don't like the community that you're in, you can move to another community. But if you do like the community that you're in, you probably want it to be a safe and friendly community, which requires some sort of security apparatus. I think of tribal people, village people that had guards. That used to be people's jobs. So, like, the idea of a police force or an enforcer class has existed for millennia. what maybe hasn't existed is the immense amount of laws. There are so many laws in this country. Just one example, like in some places you can't collect rainwater. Right? So now it's weird, someone who hates the government, myself, standing up for police, but I'm open to alternative solutions like community watch programs. Like, you shouldn't be afraid of the people in your community. If you are, there's something wrong, either with you or with your community. Our country is so divided that everybody's afraid of everybody, and it's just such a bummer. So I like to try to have a yin and yang, or like a long, short position on things. In this instance, we can look at the individual versus the institution. Good individuals can exist innocuously or benevolently within bad institutions. I would say it's rare, but by necessity of needing to provide for their family, I think that funnels a lot of good people into bad systems or bad institutions. And then the expression, "don't bite the hand that feeds," creeps into the back of people's minds, so they don't speak up when they see bad things happening. They don't speak up when they disagree. They enforce laws that they might disagree with, because if they don't write enough tickets, they'll lose their job. Bureaucracy breeds corruption. Ticket quotas? What the frack is that? The more we have the existence of systems, so like the government as a system, the bigger that becomes, the more bureaucratic that becomes. That is going to come with more laws. That is going to come with more restrictions. That is going to come with less efficiency. Economic variables also play into this. I think the best thing we can do for our country is to improve economic opportunities while getting rid of corrupt politicians. And it's a really difficult paradigm because corrupt politicians are the ones ruining economic opportunities. Just look at what has happened to small and medium-sized businesses over the last year. Look at the Great Reset. It's a real thing. You can literally look into it. It exists. It's not a conspiracy theory. We have allowed this immense consolidation of corporate and federal power to just not infect, but take over our country. So the consolidation of corporate power, McDonald's is a great example, because they're just a shitty fast food chain. But like the corporate structure of McDonald's is a great example of a rent-seeking operation, because most of their income is actually generated from the rent on the land that they buy for their franchises. So often I'll need to, look into their business structure and look at how they operate. It's a lot of franchise fees and rent. And that's not a good job. So when people say you can go down to McDonald's right now and work, that's not dignified economic opportunity. And I realize that's controversial to say. Man, people like get all uppity when you challenge the fact that shitty jobs are shitty. Like, why are we even arguing that? We do need to figure out something, because both parents out of the house is not doing anything positive for the generations that have been dealing with that issue. And so that's creating an environment where children are going to be more easily lured into crime. That's dividing households. So now we have single mothers trying to raise multiple kids. We have single fathers who don't know what the heck they're doing. The failures that have led to this position we're in are, I've been using the word multifaceted, so I'm trying to think of a different word. Their roots run in many directions and deeply. It's not just one thing. It's not just the government, and it's not just personal responsibility, but it's an amalgamation of how we have lost personal responsibility while the government has gained power and authority. And it's like, leftists, I'm sorry, I always make everything about them, but they're so frustrating because they are simultaneously attacking the government, but then trying to make it bigger, which just proves the point that they believe the government isn't the problem. It's who's in charge of the government that's the problem. But what they don't realize is that the government is the reason gay marriage was illegal for so long. Like, one of the biggest things affecting the intersectional community is the governmental oppression of, what's the right word to use now? Of the victim class of people. We're all victim to this unconscious matrix that is dividing people from their communities and from themselves. Maybe it is time for police to walk away. But who will feed the Gestapo? How do we dismantle this entity that is so embedded within our lives? We're so connected to it. It's going to be very difficult, but if we're going to succeed, it's going to require unity. It's going to require compromise and compassion. It's going to require personal responsibility and work. If you really, really want to make the world a better place, that starts with yourself and then moves to your community. So first ask yourself, what are you doing to take care of yourself? And then ask yourself, what can you do to help your community? I've been saying this, but I believe informed and empowered individuals will make often the right decision. And few people will disagree that billions of dollars are being spent to brainwash the population. They just don't want to really discuss the ramifications of such actions. Because we're all in different ways distracted. We live in a distraction society, and that distraction allows for the division, and it allows for the authoritarian takeover. what is it? Aldous Huxley's A Brave New World. I haven't read it, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll read it on the channel. We should respect our community protectors, but they should respect the citizens that they serve. And we're just in such a mess. And it's been a necessary mess, because without pain, without discomfort, metamorphosis is not possible. Nobody said the growth of the collective would be easy. But a lot of people say it's possible, and I'm one of them. I read some Buckminster Fuller the other day, so I'll leave you with this quote of his that's one of my favorites. There is nothing in a caterpillar that tells you it's going to become a butterfly. So while things might look just really bad right now, there is a beautiful transformation possible. Much love.